Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Sudeshna Mehta, your favorite host and SDN ambassador, and I am super excited to welcome you to another episode of Community Voices. Well, your bi weekly touch point to the service design community. Now, today, before we begin, I want you to quickly type in the chat where you're joining us from. And I have a fun question for you. So, when you walk into a conference or a networking event, what is the first thing that you do? Are you like scanning the entire room to see who you can chat with, or you're heading straight to like that food counter to get your favorite drink and then bring a cheers to everyone? Or are you first going to like check out the floor plan and be like, hey, what are the spots that I'm going to go and optimizing your route throughout the conference? So type in the chat what you'll be doing in a conference or a networking event. Now, as you're telling us that in the chat, I'm sure all of you have been having a lot of conversations around the Service Design Global Conference. So, for the Service Design Global Conference, as you know, it's not just everything that happens on stage. There is so much that happens in the background, in the hallway conversations. There is this community energy, and all the people who really show up and shape that experience. So there is more to the conference than what happens just on the stage. And today we're going to do exactly that, chat about all the behind the scene moments that happen. So in today, Walpurgis Reframed, the SDGC edit, we're going to go beyond those agendas, beyond the well curated stage, and essentially look at the experience behind the scenes in SDGC and the voices of all the people who are really curating this experience. So we've already heard from a few members of the events board, and we're very lucky to have two other incredible members join us today, which is Denise and Juliana. So let's bring them on stage and let's get started. And before we dive in, they also have a little special announcement to make at the end of this episode. Please stay with us till the end and drop in the chat your questions, comments. As usual, we'll take them live during the Q&A session. All right, let's bring our special guest to the stage. Hi, welcome Denise, welcome Juliana. How are you? It's been such a while before we've gotten on video. I think I haven't seen you in person in a long time now.
That's true. It's been a while.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing with us some of the secrets. Um, so let's get started. I have a little bit of a unique question for us to start. And because you'll have been sharing your service design journeys, you've been with SDGC for a while, and this time we're having SDGC in Europe, in Germany specifically. So if your life was a European painting, what would it be? And how would like the story unfold? Who's there with you in the scene? It can be a graphic, it can be anything. This is just to get your beautiful minds going a bit visual today.
Do you want to start, Denise?
Yes, still thinking a little bit about it, but sure, go ahead. So I don't know. I think it's rather something abstract, I would say. I saw, maybe it was from William Turner. I saw it one in a museum, and it was like a ship in a super dusty scene, but it was also very beautiful because it was sunset and everything was like super foggy, no hard edges. Everything was very unclear, but in the same place you had like some details. And I feel like this also resonates with me as a person, but also with my design work when we start like in a foggy space, but over the time we bring clarity into something and just also enjoying a view. And for people, I'm not sure yet. Maybe it's also similar to this image, to be honest, because you can see on the harbor some people standing next to it and just like having their own perspective and view, and we try to tie everything together and build something great off of that. Maybe this could be something.
No, I love that. You've already talked about abstraction. And yes, it doesn't have to be a specific perfect, right? I just want to know what kind of visual like emerges in your mind when you think about your journey.
Yeah,
Juliana?
to me it was a Mondrian. Well, when you asked the question, the first thing that came to mind was Mondrian. But that's because yeah, just maybe because at this moment time everything keeps changing and some things take more color or more space and others take less, and it's I've been like on constant change recently, so that's kind of the first one that came to mind. Hmm.
That's interesting. So tell us a little, like, as you're talking about that, tell us a little about yourself. I know the audience knows you a little bit, Juliana.
Mhm.
What has changed for you since you've come here? And Denise, it's your first time. So tell us a little about yourself, about journey, or
So you
even like
mean
professional journey. Sure.
um so you mean from the last time I was here at the Community Voices,
Hmm.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay, wow, that's been a while. I think did I join last when I was Dallas? Correct. That was last year when we
that
were
was last year when
preparing
you were just
Dallas.
planning for the Dallas conference.
That's true. That's true. Um, what has changed? Well, I have well, Dallas was the first time I was leading the volunteers. So that was the first year. This is my second year doing that. So I would say what has changed definitely has been how I have now built the process and feel much more confident now that doing the call for volunteers and knowing what is needed and understanding also like what are the needs. We made sure last year to collect a lot of feedback and make sure that this year the volunteers have a great experience. So that has definitely changed for me. I feel much more comfortable or confident in that role this year, let's say. um, yeah, and then also that I became part of the events board team, so that's also has been a big change. Yeah. Mm. Since
That's incredible. Thank Juliana. You might be
the
breaking a
last
little bit.
time. Thanks. That's true. My connection is a bit choppy today. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, perfect. So, Denise, tell us about yourself, your journey. How did you end up working with SDGC and SDN?
Well, that's a great question. I think my first time at SDGC was in Berlin, actually. Well, a friend was dragging me into conferences. Like, oh, I know you like photography. Would you mind like joining and supporting us and taking some photos during the event? And I was like, oh wow, a conference that seems big, but hell, why not? So I just did that, and I was super impressed by the team and how easy it's making to connect with people there. And I was asked if I mind joining the next year as well, which was Helsinki, so my first proper conference. Also joining the conference team, supporting with visual design, and yeah, slowly shaping also like support shaping SDGC as a conference into its own branding and finding out like what makes this community unique and why is this event so unique. So it was quite a ride with different roles, and I think it started to settle more. It's still a process. Yeah, so this was basically my journey, how I ended up here.
That's incredible. And I think we also connected for the first time. Helsinki was my first conference as well. So I guess that's the first time I got a chance to meet both of you. That was amazing. And I haven't met you since. Anyway, hopefully this year. Coming back to the SDN Events Board is actually a new addition. Can you tell me a little bit about it? How did you guys become a part of it?
I think the idea behind is actually to have a consistent set of team members. They're like kind of carrying the conference in its roots. Because before, and it's like all voluntary organized, but also with changing roles, and this seems like a good way to stabilize it more, but also do not restart on different perspective year by year. So we have like a common ground and build on that each year, step by step, even more.
Right.
Yes. So
Julia.
we are a team that sticks around, let's say, year after year. And we then take in the new volunteers, and we understand already what are the challenges, what are the things that we need to keep in mind, throughout the process. We understand the process, and we have managed to streamline a lot of things over the years. So this has been an excellent initiative, just to make everyone's work easier, and also to facilitate the collaboration with everyone who joins, so that they feel a bit more welcome, and that they already come from something that is already established, and there are processes, and we have templates, and we have things to work from. So not the newcomers don't feel too lost when joining in.
That is true. I do see that this year, everyone, as they're coming in, you've created more structure, more like a scaffolding for everyone to join in, so they feel more centered. I think when we joined in, we were still figuring out, and it's amazing to have that kind of guidance as we join these big events, and we don't really know what to do. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to go a little bit back and talk a bit more about the journey aspect, because I'm also curious about the personal language here. So, like, being a part of SDGC, what's something that has kind of quietly shaped for you, maybe as a skill, as a work, as a personality, working with it, that doesn't really show up on your resume or your LinkedIn or anywhere, and it's more personal and that has grown for you?
Would you like to start, Juliana?
Sure. So you mean specifically as being part of of the conference, right?
Yeah, like broadly,
SDGC, or broadly. Okay.
the conference, the community. What does that look like?
Yes.
You can
Well, I
also
would
talk
say,
about it in passing time stuff.
yeah, there is a lot to say, but yeah, that's a very good question when you ask like the things that don't show up on LinkedIn, because we never think about those. I would say for me, it's been one skill that definitely I have developed is in all these three conferences I've been volunteering for, is team leadership. So that's been something that, one, I discovered that I really like doing, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, also developing skills in that. I have always said that this volunteering experience is at the conference is kind of how to say, like a familiar space where you can test new skills and discover things about yourself, where it's also very welcoming. You can always come and try and test yourself and discover things about yourself in a very, let's say, safe or familiar environment. So I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, and then I would say what doesn't show in my LinkedIn is probably because I intentionally have been like focused in staying more focused in what I'm doing, unless like there is a lot of noise always, which can be distracting. So I would say, like, if I think about like now, for me, I'm very much trying to stay very focused in what I'm doing, and prioritize where I put my energy. So probably that's why it doesn't show in my LinkedIn, because I'm maybe a bit more quiet.
Oh, I love that. It is. It's not even that it doesn't show. It's more like I think you need to voice that experience. And as you're doing it right now, when you reflect back, gosh, you've created so much leadership quality. You've created a foundation for new members. It's just a lot of skills that you unexpectedly like branch into a lot of direction, because you're always like finding the gaps, filling in the gaps. I don't care what the skill is required, but I'm going to.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's very true, exactly, because there is a lot of this team effort. You then suddenly find yourself doing something that probably you hadn't thought you could do or you would be good, and you discover a lot of things that you really like to do, that maybe otherwise you wouldn't have. So,
That's wonderful. Denise.
I think for me, it's finding comfort in a little bit of uncertainty and chaos, in a sense of that this kind of conference is a huge event, so it comes with a lot of responsibilities and a multi-million topics to do, but also quite some challenges. Maybe something does not work as expected, or we have to fill some gaps we didn't discover beforehand. And it's like really jumping into and just being comfortable with the outcome, even when you don't know the outcome yet. Also, what I rarely found, because I'm also very quiet on my LinkedIn, to be honest, is my sense for community I discovered with Service Design Network and Service Design Conference. I was never really much of a like meetup person or conference person, for sure, quiet participant, but never was like running across different departments, connecting a lot with people. It was more like consuming rather than actually participating and shaping. So it's also something that I really discovered during my voluntary work for the conference. And it makes me very proud because, as Juliana mentioned before, it's a very safe space where you can all grow and learn. And you can also support and reshape, but you can like really find your own spot where you fit into. And that's something very, very impressive we built over the time.
Yeah, I agree with you, Denise. That's something that maybe we should add in our CV, being comfortable with the chaos, because that is the skill that you definitely get.
Masterclass in navigating chaos.
Yeah, that's definitely one that you get. Check.
I love that you also mentioned about like just being in these spaces and navigating those different circumstances. Um, I'm curious to tie us back to more of the is like the experience. What is something that you had to like unlearn in these settings and grow for you to be a better designer or strategist?
Well, I think that links very well with the previous comment. I think exactly that. Like, you cannot control the process, and that's fine. And the process probably won't start from where you're used to, or it, will start and go back, and you will go in multiple directions, and that's fine. So, yeah, probably for me, that would be the thing. Like, just kind of less control over the process and trust that things will move forward. And yeah, that you will find, as long as you're always thinking on how can I make this simpler for the next round, right? Or how
Yeah.
can I make this, and stick to to a common goal that we have all agreed, and so on, then I think that would be it for me.
I think I had to unlearn that good work always equals finalized work, so that also intermediate steps are good to go and iterating. Because just when looking back to university, you always start with something and you work on it and you finalize and you might never touch it again. But for conference, but also for regular design work, you never really finalize something. It's always an intermediate step where you can learn and grow and have to learn and grow with that. So like letting go this belief, just something really finalized and perfect is the work you have to deliver, was something that I had to learn over the past years.
That's
Yeah,
a good point.
that is a really great point. And Augusta is joining us in the comments. Agreed, you get comfortable with high level of ambiguity that would normally not be tolerated. So I love that. um, so as you are thinking about this unlearning process, what are some things that you'll have to change, you'll have had to change personally? Like with your thinking, is it your mindset? Is it the way you approach? And I know you probably answered that a little bit. I want to dive a little bit deeper and be like, hey, let's excavate that a little bit more. Like, give us a story. Give us a story, essentially.
connected to the things we have had to unlearn.
Hmm.
Hmm. Well, to me, it's been a while where I have been, if you talk about mindset, more on the observance chair and taking a moment to observe before deciding, and also thinking, is this something that, is this coming from a bias that I have or not, or this more like self-reflection definitely has changed over the years. um yeah, being more aware of like what is the origin of my thinking, and why is it coming, why is it this way, and is it influenced by something else, or these kind of things definitely have changed for me in the mindset. Mm.
That's very interesting. You're almost, what I'm hearing is like you kind of third person evaluating yourself. You're like, hey, I'm the third person in
Mhm.
this scenario. How am I looking at it? Like, do I have a bias? Is there something that is happening in the background? So I love that
Exactly.
you said that.
And then also I would say, in like, again, being comfortable in the chaos, meaning also like, feeling more comfortable that I cannot control everything, and kind of taking things more with the perspective of, if they don't turn out the way I was planning or thinking, they can still become opportunities. So this has also shifted quite a lot in recent years. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Juliana. Denise.
I was thinking about what Yelena said regarding where my bias, why I'm experiencing, and like why I think about the like why I think about certain things in the way I do. I think it's also kind of leads into detaching from the outcome, as we mentioned before.
Mhm.
I would describe myself fairly attached to details. um, but on the other hand, letting this go and just leaning towards something you might not know yet what's coming up,
Mhm.
it's a very special, interesting feeling. It's also sometimes very scary. And personally, also a little bit out of my comfort zone, but also embracing this comfort zone became one of my personal strengths, I would say. I feel most comfortable when I not feel comfortable enough, to be honest. So really detaching from the outcome and try to not overthink rather than just jumping into and see, okay, let's do it and see how it goes, and then we adjust and then we adjust again. Like
Hmm.
really living the iteration process.
Yeah, literally living the iteration process. And I know that's gonna kind of be your answer if I ask you if, what is your superpower? It has to be like being comfortable in that discomfort, or even owning up to and enjoying that discomfort sometimes,
Mhm.
knowing that, hey, this is going to open up new possibilities and bigger
Mhm.
boundaries for us. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. And
Do you
that's a superpower nowadays too, because of also things are changing so quickly, like even technology and so on is changing so fast that, as you said, the outcome, it doesn't really matter that much anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right? Mm.
It's true. And also to like detach from that 100% and bring it down to, hey, we're gonna reiterate in the process. Coming to now, I'm gonna pivot a little bit into what's kind of one of the moments that you say like, as the, like, this is the moment that I'm here for with this community. Has there been a specific moment that comes up for you, a
Mhm.
story that's there, like, this community matters to me because dash dash dash?
Mhm. Mhm.
I recently met someone again in Berlin on a meetup. And that was a moment that made me a little bit think how I started with a service design conference and also a service design community. And it was quite impressive because we met in Helsinki and didn't know this person also lives in Berlin now. And I think I cannot really tie it down to a single moment. It's rather than something that was building up over the years. So what I discovered for myself is this community is like really truly global. So there hadn't been an event in ages that I was not able to meet at least like one person someone spotted on one of the SDGC events, which is fairly impressive, I would say.
Yeah.
And I really like that because it just feels a little bit like home, even when I do not really know this person super well, but it's like a familiar face in an unfamiliar environment. And this has something really comforting. And also then stepping into a conference, as we did it in Helsinki, this was my last conference I attended in person, was just so impressive. All the people I was used to know from Berlin, but also different other new faces. And then I re-met them on other events here in Berlin again, or in Frankfurt when I was recently there. Not that recently, but last summer. So that was really impressive. Yeah, it's such a large community, and you always find someone somewhere.
That is true. Has it been similar for you too, Juliana, or a different experience?
Yes, and I would say from behind the scenes, I would just add that the connections you make, because I basically joined, I had just graduated from my master's and I in service design and new to the field, and I just wanted to network, and I wasn't like expecting anything more than just meeting.
Okay. Juliana's connection is at play again. Let's give it a moment.
Yes.
People to connect, cover these.
Juliana, you broke up for a minute
Oops,
there.
I think I'm back. There is a white wall in the back.
Welcome back.
About that.
No worries. I like where did you cut off?
Yeah, my
Uh,
connection is.
yeah. So if you don't mind
Where
just
did I
repeating
cut
that
off?
a bit.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short.
Yeah. You don't have to. You have all the time.
um,
Go ahead.
yeah, but basically, just I wanted to say that I joined the community just basically to network as a new graduate from my master's, new to the field, and no expectations. And what I have discovered is, well, I absolutely love the community that's built also with the people working backstage and organizing this conference, organizing these events. It keeps growing, even here in Finland in the local chapter. It keeps growing, and we have built connections that go beyond just a colleague or someone who can maybe refer you for an work opportunity. It goes beyond that. We have become friends, and yeah, just the trust that you build, because this is all volunteer based, right? So um, with the people that I have collaborated across these three conferences, the fact that I can reach out and say, I need your support, and we support each other because we know we have to deliver this. But still, sometimes one is needing help or advice or anything. So yeah, I think those connections, and then of course as the volunteer lead, I absolutely, this is something that I love, just the people that I meet, the volunteers, and the conversations and why they decided to volunteer, and the excitement they have about the community, and then how I see that they keep coming back. And yeah, this is to me like really, really exciting, and I absolutely love it.
I love that. Can you tell me about some of the connections that you've made in these spaces that have been unexpected? Either they've evolved into friendship or maybe professional connections, and you're like, hey, I didn't really expect that going into that space.
Mhm. Um, well, I'll start. Maybe for me,
Mhm.
it's been particularly with the local chapter. I have been, for example, currently thinking about the business ideas with a fellow volunteer. We have talked some of us are have been like at different points navigating a job search. So also, like, even though we are all looking for work and sometimes even looking for the same jobs, we still support each other, right? And we are there for each other. So this to me has been like, even give advice on, what to highlight on your resume or on your portfolio or these kind of things. Yeah, have been for me the key things.
I love that. So you're talking about portfolio, your business. That is incredible. Sometimes you might just find your business partner, co-founder, I don't know, in such a
Exactly.
right the
Mm.
experiment, or you're even finding like your community. I remember in Helsinki on the after party, we all ended up doing a lot of karaoke. I was like, oh my god, I
Mm.
haven't found my karaoke crowd anywhere.
Mhm. Very true.
What about you, Denise?
I found some very, very deep and lasting connections, I have to admit. So, like, at least two of my closest friends, I not just like overall met at the conference, but they were very close tied to the conference, and at least one friend I made during my time at the conference. So this
Yeah,
is something that I deeply treasure. But also, as Juliana said, there's always like someone you can hit up for a very good chat, or just if you feel like you need support or would like to talk about with someone like-minded. There's like a lot of comfort in this community and a lot of willingness to support each other.
Mm. Yeah.
that is so true. That brings me back to also thinking about when we were thinking about community and SDGC. So if SDGC as a conference was a person and that was kind of your friend, what kind of personality would they have? Like, would you go to, I don't know, coffee with them? Or would you end up in a music show?
Well, it's a very demanding friend.
I agree.
Like the princess of the group?
Yeah, it's one of those friends that you absolutely love, but it's very demanding.
Where you need some space afterwards, but you still love them.
Exactly. You need a break from them every now and then.
Oh my god, I love that. So what would
But yeah, very loyal, absolutely.
very loyal? Okay, I love that. So they're demanding, they're loyal. What is another trait that they are?
I think also very, very curious, and also very spontaneous
Hmm,
because you never know what happened.
I love that. So
That's
spontaneous,
true.
curious too. That is one heck of a friend. Would you spend 3 days with them?
On a festival for
Yeah,
sure.
1 week and then a little break. Yeah, but we spend a year in the planning, so
Yes,
yeah,
that is true.
that's why I said loyal, because here we are year after year. So demanding, but we're still there.
That is so true. Um, that's very interesting. So is that right? Like, what do you do after SDGC? And like, everyone takes a break. What do you like do exactly
No,
after to unwind?
I prepare the feedback surveys. I
Oh,
document everything. Yeah, I take my few days into like thinking how we could have done this better. That definitely, like, I leave my good week for just, throwing out there all the things. For example, last year, very concrete with the volunteers, I every time I got a question, I would note down like, okay, next year I'm going to make sure that this is explained clearly, or and then I had my volunteer journey map, and I would be adding notes there across, the process. Like, this, I noticed this was asked, somebody had a conversation and they said next year you should do this. I was always collecting my feedback, and then I take my like about a week. Of course, I also help with the website, so I help to update the website for the next year, but definitely document and definitely like reflect on the experience. For me, that's like I think that week is the most important of all.
Right.
And then and then I'm gone.
I love that. It's like, okay, friend, I spent 3 days with you. Now I'm gonna give you 100-page analysis report on your personality.
On how we can improve this. See you in a few months.
Yeah, like this is your personality development plan for the next year. Denise.
But since I have like some, or in the past at least, I had some sort of a double role. I was also, besides planning the visuals, also taking photography. I was mostly um, scrolling and editing through memories, to be honest. Like at least 2 weeks after the conference, really take care of each and every picture so we can reuse it for documentation, but also for our socials and sharing with participants. So basically also making memories accessible for them, not just for us. But besides that, one thing I really also treasured and learned from my Finland experience was just like having a day in the sauna, really unwinding. And then after taking the photography, sorting everything out, barely touching computer for at least a week and just somehow unwind and enjoying also the peace and comfort that comes afterwards.
That is, yeah, that sounds very relaxing. I think everyone would sign up for like a day in the sauna after all that engagement. Amazing. So personally, are you more like a introvert, extrovert? How do you engage in these spaces? Because they're loud, they're filled with people, and it's a lot of networking. So, what has been sort of your personal strategy for being a part of such global events?
I think personally, I'm always on an intensely high energy level during these events. I would describe myself somewhere in the middle between an introvert and extrovert, depending on their personal feelings and environment. But during events, I really, really turn into a massive extrovert and I try to get out every experience I make there. Um, so you will always see me running from left to right and back and forth.
Yes. So, if audience, if you see someone like running across the stage, it is Denise. Come and to her.
Yeah, basically. I think it also comes along with like taking photos or not just like hunting my own memories and but also ensure that I capture like beautiful moments.
Hmm. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I would agree. Same. I'm a bit of a mix of both. And I find it very hard to disconnect from like, the planner and the organizer and take that hat off. So I am also running around seeing what could be improved. For example, last year, also making sure that the volunteers weren't alone in their shift, making sure they had everything they needed, being basically available for anything that's needed. But having said that, I have definitely like I can think of maybe two occasions where I really wanted to be part of the program, right? And like take off my organizer planner hat.
Yeah.
One was in Helsinki. I volunteered as a host, as a stage host. And that was basically to leave a bit my comfort zone because I am most commonly backstage, but also to listen to the talks without having any other responsibility other than manage that stage, right?
Yeah.
So I could listen to the talks and kind of enjoy the content there. And then last year, I remember I wanted to join this break activity for the line dancing. So
Hmm.
for that one, I was there and I was full on and kind of decided, okay, for this moment, if something happens, it's a short time. I'm going to enjoy the dancing. but, but yeah, otherwise it's hard. I just kind of for me, yeah, I tend to be more on this, like, what's needed, and making sure that everyone is having a good time and things are working and the people flow and so on is going well.
True. And what I'm hearing is you guys have like a lot of roles that you'll just slot into every now and then. That's quite a bit. All right. Before we go to the next question, I'm going to open us up for Q&A. So people in the audience, if you have any questions for our events team, this is your time. Please dive into the question. And as always, I have more questions from you from last year and from our audience in general. So I'll pull those up as they type in. All right. What is something that now we talked about you just having like to put on many hats. What is one of your like favorite SDGC moments or like a high intensity emotion moment that you're like, hey, this has imprinted on my brain and you cannot separate it from this conference?
Well, for me, it was in Helsinki, the moment when the conference was basically over and everyone was on stage and saying bye to the audience. And it was like, wow, it was so intense to work a year on that. And now it's gone. It's like a full week, a full year of work, like leading into 3 days, full intensity, like 3 days conference, but we also on site earlier to prepare everything.
Yeah.
Then you have this like peak moment, and then it's like, oh wow, what's next? What's
like the
there?
void, the silence after it's done.
Yes, exactly. It's like a mix of very different feelings, a little bit of sadness, a little bit of wow, I'm so hyped, this was great, see what we built here, and like a lot of joy, but also like, oh wow, it's silent now.
It's
For a
fun.
bit
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, definitely the end is very special, I would say, because yeah, what Denise just said, and also with the volunteers, there is a lot of like connection at the end of the conference. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but it's very special, kind of like you create something together, and then everyone follows their own path after that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to wrap up something because it's so short,
True.
right? It's 3 days. So it's kind of
That's
like very
true.
short and very intense, and the goodbyes are hard. Mm.
It's like working the whole year and suddenly everyone's in this space with high energy and there's a 3 day
Mm.
sprint. Before you know everything's over. So
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, because even like working now, of course, there are the events board who we know very well. And many of us are here in Finland, so I know even friends. So we see more outside the conference, right? But this team that joins every year for the whole city, you work with them, you kind of have some interactions, but then you're really looking forward to meet them in person, and it always goes like super fast. I think it would be nice to have like a few days kind of just to hang out and actually like, just hang out and talk about life and stuff.
that is true.
Mm.
I do agree that you kind of need that space to just hang out and wind down and get to even know each other.
Mm.
Because for so many of us, it's the first time we'll be meeting in person. We haven't met.
Mm.
I
True.
hear.
Yeah,
True. I've never
definitely
sat
right.
and had a proper conversation with you face to face either.
True, true.
Mm.
All right. Now, some of the questions from like our previous conversations that we've had in volunteers overall, like what's one mistake like a first time SDGC attendees making and they should do, what should they do instead?
Mhm. Well, I will say the obvious, not going to the website and check the website thoroughly, because we have all the information you need to plan your conference experience on the website, and we put a lot of effort on that. So that's one. Not checking your emails, because we also send all the information that you need to plan your conference on our emails. So if you're coming to the conference, my tip is open your emails, check, because it really will make a difference. We have a lot of program that it's even outside the 3 days conference. Um, so it's important to be checking, because even when planning your trip, it could affect if you come maybe a day earlier or stay over the weekend, right? So yeah, and also I would say, like, if you are unsure about if you should stay a bit more or not, reach out to the conference team, because we can also give you the tips on, maybe the program is not yet ready, but based on previous years experience, what is worth, how long it's a good stay, and what things to see around, and what things are there to do, and so on. So yeah, definitely the planning before the conference makes a big difference, and checking the content.
So to
Doing
all
that.
the audience listening, bring out the service designer in you, check all the information on the website and email, and design your perfect experience along with the team.
Where
Denise.
since Juliana had already like all the planning topics, which I absolutely agree, please do that. Um, I can recommend also try to enjoy the in-between moments. And even when you plan hard and would like to experience as much as you can, take a moment to step back and also just breathe and enjoy where you are right now. Don't think about too early for the next event or the next step or the next talk. Just try to be present and really enjoy, and maybe also take a little break in between and just observe.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one too, so I'm going to add, which is I know everyone loves taking notes during the conference, so I know you're constantly doing that. Look up from your notebook, look at the people beside you, and talk to them. Sometimes those are one of the most engaging and fun connections that you make. Of course, not during the talk. We highly don't recommend that. But after, but have a little chit
But
chat.
there is also the replay. So,
Yes,
exactly. So then you can always go back and listen again, and, grab what you missed. But what you're not going to have again is the person sitting next to you, maybe sharing about the same topic, or, learning about what they do. So,
amazing. All right, let's hop to our next question. So, next is if someone's thinking about attending or volunteering this year, what are some of like, what would you say if they're hesitating and how should they reach out? And here, I think, Liana, you can actually make your announcement too.
announcements.
No,
Yes.
no.
All right, so let's get to the good stuff. So, the call for volunteers is currently open, and it's going to close on May 15th. So, I definitely encourage everyone who is curious, interested, and not sure to apply. You can also reach out to me if you have questions. If you check the form, we have put a lot of information on what it implies to volunteer and what you get. But if you still have questions, you're unsure, you can always reach out. Um, yeah, and I would say, well, if you are unsure, ask, but I would encourage to volunteer, because I think you get to connect with a lot of people. So definitely the group of volunteers, you usually shifts with other people, and you get a lot of time to talk, discuss together. So you get to meet people quite well. Um, and yeah, it's just a great way to, if you're a first time joining Service Design Network, so it's a great way to start your way into the community. And yeah, and basically just make connections across the world.
Yeah. And if you're hesitating and you're like, hey, I don't know if I'd be a good fit here, that's really not something you have to worry about. We have professionals from all ages, right from when they're bachelor students or even who are just starting out to being like experienced professionals. So you don't have to get caught up in the do I have the experience? Do I have the skill set? You're all welcome. It's a community. And we know you bring your own unique self. So you'll definitely find a place where you'll be able to use your gift.
And you
Yeah,
will
and there's
also
different
find some
ways to
space to enjoy
volunteer.
conference.
Sorry. Denise, Juliana.
You first,
I
Denise,
just
go ahead.
Thank you. I also wanted to mention you will always, even as a volunteer and you do some stuff on site, you will also have time to explore the conference and enjoy it yourself.
Absolutely. And there's many ways to volunteer. You can volunteer on site as a volunteer on site. You can volunteer as a virtual conference volunteer, which is a bit different. You maybe help on the weeks prior to the conference. You can be an ambassador. There are many ways. So basically, if you're curious, you're interested, reach out because we would be more than happy to share
Yeah.
all
And
the
the conference
information.
happens both in person and online. So even if you're not able to
Mhm.
make it in person, you have like an option to actually join the online community. So don't hesitate and yes, share, like join us as a volunteer. All right, with that, to all the amazing people out there, hope to see you all soon. We're heading to the end of the session, so I'm going to ask you one last question and then we'll have a little bit of a rapid fire. All right. What is the one question about SDGC experience and your work that you've been dying to answer, but no one's ever asked you? So it's like a question of a question, meta question.
Hmm. Question we've been dying to answer, but no one has asked us.
Yes.
Okay. Hmm. What
I
happens
think
in the volunteer room? No, I'm kidding.
What happened? Tell us. We need to know.
I think this might true for the team room as well, isn't it?
um. Yeah, I don't know. Um. Yeah, maybe if I would go back to the first day when I decided to volunteer, if I would do it again, which the answer would be yes, definitely. It's definitely worth it. So if I would do it all again, yes. Maybe one advice when volunteering is like, or something that I would maybe do different from day one is really like communicating very well with fellow volunteers because
Right.
volunteer work is volunteer work. We have our private lives too. So I think for going back to the question you're saying, maybe asking like what things are challenging in volunteering, maybe that one, like being very open, very communicative, and trusting each other and supporting each other, because it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of things you need to do, and you need to deliver the conference, and we're all very excited and we want to do a lot of things, so also to be realistic on what you can do, and also trust everyone else and be very open and communicative on, yeah,
That's perfect.
with
I
the
think
fellow volunteers.
everyone just take notes. These are exactly the question you're going to ask Juliana when you reach out to her.
And what happens in the volunteer room
What
stays in the
happens in the
volunteer room.
volunteer
No, I'm
room?
kidding.
Denise, you want to go next?
Um, I think it might be two questions. Like one was actually asked at some point in Helsinki. We had a rabbit chicken. I was like dying to tell everyone the story about the rabbit chicken and what we did with the thing there.
Yeah.
But no one wants to ask me. I think they might be
Ah,
afraid about
true.
the answer. but at some point we ended up there. And I think the second would be for me, what's your favorite moment you captured through your lens during the conference? I think there's like during each conference there's like one image I treasured the most, and they're like all very different, and it's nice to discover them and share them. It's most likely not the images you will see on the social media as well.
Yeah, Denise, you should share us, and definitely about the chicken. I remember the chicken very well because it somehow became a little mascot going around the entire conference thanks to your picture series. So you should definitely share that with our audience. Amazing. Thank you both so much. This has been incredible. Now we'll do a quick rapid five and then yeah, we'll come to the end of the session. So for both of you, one to 3 words rapid fire. SDGC is my dash.
SDGC is my happy place.
Ooh, love it.
It's my guilty pleasure.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's really good. Denise.
Oh, they were already very strong. I would also jump on the train with the guilty pleasure because it's a lot of work, but it's like absolutely worth it. Sometimes you feel a little bit guilty about it afterwards.
Okay, next. First thing you do when you arrive at the venue.
I check for trouble with people flow, like anything that would be a bottleneck for people moving and queues and yeah.
Okay, bottleneck for people.
Bottlenecks.
Denise.
I most likely will be sit somewhere on the floor and like scan the rooms and we'll start overthinking if we prepared everything that we have to print and placing the visuals and it's everything there and how it will be for the next couple of days being in this venue and navigating through everything.
Amazing. Now, last, if SDGC were a festival, what festival would it be?
Festival.
Well, there's a small one next to Berlin, probably no one knows about it. It's called Immer Gut, which translates directly to always good. It's a small festival, but it's super familiar and it's also a very heartwarming, welcoming, but a little bit crazy place. And this is, I think, this would quite fit.
Okay, love it. Juliana?
To me would be any festival that is around like culture or, world exchanging cultures or something of that sort, because it definitely, at the end of the day, it's that you meet people from anywhere in the world. So
yeah. Amazing. I think that's also the reason I chose kind of today's name, Walpurgis, because there is a festival in Germany, which is the Walpurgis Night, isn't it, Denise? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's like a silly tradition back in the days when a lot of parts of Germany have been starting. And I think it's also true for most other south-located countries outside of Germany. But it's basically where you have some sort of festivalish situation with a big fire, music, dancing, welcoming spring and leaving winter behind.
Yeah, and the thing that resonated, I think, was just the gathering of the community that happens and immersion of culture. So you get to see a lot of cultural immersion as well, because you'll be in Germany. Previously, we were in Helsinki. So whichever place SDGC happens, there's like a flavor of the local culture that incorporates in the conference itself, and that makes it so much more rich. Okay, last question. The best SDGC conversations happen, dash.
I don't know, like I cannot name a specific one, but anything that had to do with sitting with a volunteer on a shift and talking about what they're working on, what they're studying, who they are, where they're from. Any of those moments to me were the best.
Amazing. Denise?
I had a very few great conversations on the staircase, actually, when you're passing by and you experience something and then jump to something else. I was like, oh, did you saw this? Or did you notice this? Or it's like less intimidated, I would say. But like very, very honest, very raw.
Yes. Amazing. Perfect. So thank you. I think with that, we've come to the end of our conversation today. And I'm going to share one more thing with our audience, which is Denise. I'll pass it over to you.
Yay! We still have early bird tickets till I think it's the 15th of May, if I see it right. And besides having a less price, it's also including the closing event already. So if you want to join us and if you're curious about it, that's your chance.
Yes, this is your chance to grab the early bird, and both the volunteer applications and the early bird, both of them close on 15th of May. So keep that date in mind. And yeah, see you in the conference actually. So talk soon. If you have any questions, reach out to our events code. So it's Juliana and Denise. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are super lucky to have all your insightful behind the scenes experience and looking forward to uh, having more conversations in person. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, Juliana. Bye, Denise.
Bye. Bye bye. See you at the
Bye.
conference.
All right. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. And big thank you to all our community members for engaging with us live. And shout out to all of you who are deciding whether you want to move from being a participant to being an active member and contributing to the conference. We welcome you and we're excited to collaborate together. And at the end, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow us, and meet you on another Community Voices session 2 weeks from now. So see you on 14th May. Thank you, everyone. Bye.